So guys, if we want to go from skinny to jacked arms, we're going to need a serious blueprint here because this is a real serious deal. I mean, we really want to get these jacked arms. It really is a life or death situation. But before we start, I need to let you know, I was the king of the skinny arms. If you've seen my videos, my transformation video, when I first started training, my arms were probably like 12 inches. They were tiny. And then I essentially went on training all the compound muscle groups, so all my pushes, my pulls, and I never really isolated arms because I thought, right, obviously, personally, my aspiration was to step on stage one day, which I've done, which I'll continue to do in the future. But yeah, the first 3-4 years of my training, I really didn't isolate arms because I thought, right, you've got to have like big shoulders, V-frame, build the lats, build the chest. And as long as I get a strong bench, my triceps will be huge. And as long as I get a good weighted pull up, my biceps will be huge. Didn't happen. In fact, here's a photo of me when I started. And here's a photo of me from my first competition. So this was about 1.5 years ago. This is the front double biceps pose. And it exposed it for me. I'm like, man, I have a spider physique. Like, I'm very torso dominant, big chest, big lats, small biceps. So my goal the last 1.5 years essentially has been to add some inches to my arms. Over the last 1.5 years, I've managed to get them up to about 16.5 inches cold. So I've gained an inch over 1.5 years. And there's a few key points here. Again, we all know, 21-inch arms, Arnold style is the goal. But there's some things here that we want to break down. So obviously, you guys probably know this, is that the tricep is 2/3 of your arm. But there's a few points here when it comes to the triceps that you want to sort of break down. You got the lateral head, so the outer head of the triceps, then you've got the long head. So that's the part that sweeps underneath, especially important in a front double biceps pose. When you're coming up, you want to have a sweep under there. And then the medial head, which really is, I believe, is getting hit. And basically, if you're targeting lateral and long head, you're getting plenty of medial head as well. And the largest part of the tricep is the long head. So we want to target that, I would say, first, also because of its appearance, obviously, creating the sweep underneath the arm. So in order to hit the long head, we want to really emphasize overhead extension movements. Because when the elbows are up above the head, we're going to get a pre-stretch on that long head, which means it's more activated, there's more tension going on there while we're training those movements. So there's some key movements here. We've got cable extensions, we've got like French press, even stuff like the dumbbell pullover, actually I think is amazing for the long head. If you give your elbows a little bit of a bend and you go with pretty heavy weight, you can smash lats pretty nicely, a bit of serratus, a little bit of chest kind of. But you can really get the triceps with a dumbbell pullover. So those are fantastic movements for hitting the long head, which again is a key part of the triceps to hit. If you're only hammering the lateral head, you're going to miss out on that sweep underneath the arm, and the largest part of the tricep being the long head. So now we come to the lateral head of the tricep. So this one is going to get hit a lot in your presses. So, bench press, dips are fantastic for this. Essentially, whenever you're pushing, extending at the elbow with the elbow sort of tucked in, arms more down by your side rather than up in that position, you're going to hit more lateral head. Still very beneficial to isolate standing extensions, rope, V-bar, straight bar, whatever, underhand if you like. Very beneficial, but again, we are getting more hit here from our compounds, though the long head is not really getting hit as much in those compounds. That's why I emphasize that first, that the long head should be the first one you probably want to hit in your workout for the triceps, then hitting the lateral head afterwards. And with those movements, essentially we want a good mix of short, mid-range, and also lengthened position in terms of the muscle belly. So we want to have it deeply lengthened. You're getting a lot of that with overhead extensions anyway. There's a lot of lengthening happening here at the tricep. Which is great, but to avoid things like overuse, tendonitis, those things can throw you out of the gym for a while, especially in the elbow, tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, stuff like that, is we want to mix it up. So Don't feel like you always have to do the same overhead extension. Maybe you do overhead extension for a bit and then you go to a French press with a dumbbell and you focus more on mid-range versus getting a really lengthened stretch on the cable. Stuff like JM press as well is good for the lateral head. Not having to, go too crazy with the lengthening of the muscle, essentially. It's good to mix them all up, and also changing grips as well. This can also create, novelty for the muscle, and also it stops it being a bit bland. It's awesome to have a couple of key ones that you go to, and ones that you check you are progressing on. Like maybe you come back to your, for example, rope cable overhead extension for your triceps to make sure that you're progressing in terms of reps and strength, because we want to get stronger. Like that is the key to getting bigger arms as well, is it's becoming strong on these isolation movements. That is the key. So making sure we return to that, but also mixing it up. Maybe you do a bit of underhand standing extension, maybe you swap the rope overhead for a V-bar or something, anything. A little bit of novelty, also fun mentally to do that. Yeah, and then by mixing up the short mid-range with the length and range, we're negating potential overuse injuries, because if we can't train, you can't grow. It's a bust, isn't it? Now, the best part, the biceps, right? These are the muscles everyone sort of gets into when they first start training. I know I did. The first thing I did when I got into dumbbells, I spent a few months when I was like 15. I just sit on the edge of my bed, watch Rich Piana, and just do hammer curls. All I did. It didn't last long because I stopped training for like 5 years. But I came back, and now I'm back again to do the same thing. But essentially what we want to do is we want to hit short head. So that's when the wrist supinated. That's when you're able to attack the peak of the bicep, when that wrist is supinated that way. So barbell curls, EZ bar curls are great. Again, we want to mix up the ranges here of the range of motion on the muscle. So short mid-range with barbell stuff, cables is great. And then you can also add length and range stuff like incline curls, preacher curls. All that stuff is fantastic. But again, I do find you don't only want to hammer length and stuff, especially with the biceps. I find you can get into some little niggles, some tendon pain if you're just always in that deep stretch, always hammering it out twice a week. That's when you can run into a few issues. Sometimes, switching to things like spider curls for a season as well, just focusing on that squeeze at the top and that mid-range is great. And then to hit the long head, also very important. We want that thickness from the front, side, and we also want the functionality of training the long head, the brachialis, and parts of the forearms. It's going to protect the tendons as well. So stuff like, hammer curls. Hammer curls are awesome. You can do hammer curls on an incline, lengthened, or you can do them standing, add some lengthened partials. Awesome. And EZ overhand curls as well. On the EZ bar, a little bit more comfortable on the wrist, curling overhand to get a lot of forearm too. That works great, and that helps bulletproof those tendons and just grow the thickness of the bicep overall, rather than just hammering, again, supination. And this is also the importance of changing grips. You want to change grips from time to time, not just for injury prevention, but also for fun. Maybe you spend a week on cables, then you spend the next week on dumbbell orientated stuff. We don't just want to train for the pump. Like, we want to train so your face is, it's freaking hard. That's a good set, and that's how we want to end arm training, especially on our last set of a given exercise most of the time. So how might this all look in your split? I do think having an arm day, or at least an arm dedicated segment where the arm is fresh, is really important for overall growth. Because when the muscle's fresh, you can hammer it harder, you can get more reps, you can do a bit more volume, and you can just target it more specifically. I think for a lot of people, it depends on your split, and it depends how often you want to be in the gym. Let's say you want to be in the gym 3 times a week. Essentially, what you could do is you could have your own day completely dedicated to arm training. So supersetting, biceps, triceps, etc. Or you could do it before legs. So that's another great way to do it, because it's actually a good way to warm up too. Because if you're leg training, it does require a bit more cardiovascular, endurance. You're pumping more blood into the largest muscles on the body. So a good way to get into that is spend the first 20, 30 minutes, triceps, biceps, throwing in some supersets before legs, and that'll warm you up, your nervous system as well for when you go to hit legs. And then it's not going to interfere with your upper body training. It's not going to, you're not going to be like, okay, I'm going to train chest today, and then I'm going to try and squeeze out 3 sets of triceps at the end. That can be a little exhausting after that point, and you usually don't hit it as hard. You hit it at like 70% because you're like, right, this is the end of the workout. Let me just get through these 10 to 15 reps, and you're not really honing in for that arm specialization. So what you can do, if you don't want to do it before legs, you can do another cheeky thing where you do push and then biceps at the end, because at least in this way, the biceps are pretty damn fresh. They've not really been used, right? So you do push and biceps, and then you do pull and triceps. So you're doing opposite muscles there, essentially. So at the end of your push day, you go for 3 to 4 hard sets, maybe 2 to 3 sets of a supinated curl, like on the barbell, and then maybe 1 or 2 sets of a long head focused movement, like a hammer curl or an overhand curl. And then for pull, you would go to the triceps. So again, 3, 4 hard sets is really all you need. So maybe you do 2 to 3 long head focused extensions. And then you do 1 or 2 standing lateral head focused extensions there. That's another great way to do it.